Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bree Buonomo. Hi if you're new here, or hey if you've been here before. So today I am doing a tag video, and I'm doing this video for like two main reasons. One, I am kind of lazy as I'm gearing up to do Camp April NaNoWriMo, and my personal life is just very busy and tags are kind of easy to do. But the second reason, which is the more like honorable reason, is because recently I hit 600 subscribers on my channel, and it's kind of blown my mind a little bit. Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining me. It's been a while since I've done kind of an introduction, especially because my last talk, I think I did the story writing idea tag last like June maybe. And at that point, I think I only had like just a little over 100 subscribers. So it's been quite a minute since I've done a tag related to my writing so that people can kind of get to know me a little bit. For now, my 600 subscriber thank you is this video. So I'm going to stop blabbering and get into the tag, which is the My Writing Process tag. I actually recently saw Kelly Ty do this, which is what partially inspired me to do this myself. The original tag is by The Bookish Pen Babe, and I will link both Kelly and The Bookish Pen Babe's channels down below for those videos that you can go watch in your own time. Now let's get on to the questions. Question number one is, what genres do I write? Now, primarily I focus on fantasy. That's a big genre for me, particularly adult fantasy. I really like a lot of the subgenres of fantasy, including fantasy horror, speculative fantasy, urban fantasy, high fantasy, you just name it. I love fantasy in all capacity. So I have a lot of ideas within the fantasy genre. That's not just like a regular high fantasy. I have a ton of other subgenres in there. I also write a little bit of sci-fi. I recently wrote what I wanted to be a novella. I'm an underwriter, so I really need to get it up there, but I wrote a novella sci-fi and I really like it. I'm really proud of it. So I can say I write sci-fi now. I also dabble in contemporary poetry and horror by itself, not fantasy included, just horror. And I really like writing in all of those. I really do like writing contemporary, but I have less ideas for contemporary than I do for fantasy, and fantasy just gives me a lot of joy. So I'm not opposed to writing contemporary. It's just not where I want to focus. Question number two is, what setting gets me the most productive? And you are looking at it. I write primarily in this room, though I do like writing outside a lot as well. And once the summer comes, I do plan on kind of moving in and out from my backyard to here. But I feel very productive in this room. It was made to be my office. I'm surrounded by things that give me inspiration, and I love it. Question number three is, if I have multiple story ideas, how do I go about picking which one I want to start with? So if you are new here, then you probably don't realize that I write multiple projects at once, and it just depends on what calls to me. So in this past NaNoWriMo back in 2020, I actually did start writing two projects at once, and my goal was 50,000 between two projects. What ended up happening is I started writing both of them, but then I gravitated towards one, and that's kind of a good way that I do it. If I'm drafting two different stories, whatever one starts to call to me more in a given time is what I will primarily write. At any given time, I probably have a story that's being drafted, a story that's being edited, and I also have a story that is in the process about to be queried. So I kind of have different stages, and that also keeps them straight. It's a little bit different when you're drafting a book versus editing, and the time commitments vary. So I do a lot of things. It really just depends on my mood and what my goals are. So for instance, I want to query my prophecy project, and I've been pretty heavily focused on that because that's my goal this year. But it doesn't mean that I'm not drafting here and there when I feel like doing that. To sum it all up, I don't pick necessarily. I just go with whatever I feel like it. And if that one sticks, then I stay with it. Question number four is, do I outline? And the quick answer is no, but I never have like a full outline. What I kind of do is I write down story notes, and I will kind of add little details in as I'm going through the story, but I don't have a strict outline. And I'm pretty okay with that because I usually sit and marinate with the story before I start writing it. So I kind of have an outline in my head, but it's just not written down. Question number 5 is, how do I start my novel? Is it by pen or paper, a typewriter, a computer, something else? And it's pretty much, for the most part, computer. I've also been using the notes in my phone because that's sometimes easier to pull out than a pen and paper, especially if I'm like in the grocery store or something. But for the most part, when I start sitting down to actually write, it's on a computer. Question number 6 is, what do I do to get through writer's block? So I will just plug one of my fellow AuthorTuber friends here because she made a fabulous video recently, and that's Sarah Lubrat, and she kind of talked about how to get her creativity up. And I'm not gonna lie, I told her this on that video. It's the same exact methods for me. Like, we're very similar apparently when it comes to what gets us in the writing mood, getting motivation, beating writer's block. But a lot of things will be music related. I love listening to music, and certain songs will inspire me to want to write something. I also have playlists for all of my books. So those specific playlists, if I want to get back in the mood of writing something, are helpful. So music always gets me in the mood to be creative. I also love watching AuthorTuber videos. Basically, just watching other people succeed gives me that motivation and that fire to be like, I want to be just like them. So I got to get back to work. And this might be kind of cliche or like beating a dead horse, but honestly, taking care of myself. If my mental well-being is not tip-top shape, then there's no way I'm going to write or be creative in any capacity. So I try to take care of myself by drinking water every day, by getting enough sleep, and by trying to exercise pretty much. I always just feel better once I have a really strong workout, so I feel in a better mindset when I do those 3 things. Question number 7 is, do I format my project from the very beginning or worry about that later? Thanks to college and all of my writing courses I did in college, I format right in the beginning. I've actually, in both my Word docs and in my Google Docs, both are preset to my formatting so that I don't have to worry about it ever. I can just print it off and we're good to go. So I'm editing this video and I realized that I skipped question number 8, which is, do I edit as I go or when I'm finished with the first draft? And at this point in my life, I edit when I'm done completely. Back in like the early 2010s, would like write a little bit, then go back and edit, and then write a little bit and go back and edit. But what I ended up starting to do was I would edit way too much and I would never finish the story. So now I finish an entire draft first before I ever even think about editing, and I go from there. Question number 9 is, after finishing my draft or manuscript, how long do I give it a break before I start going back over it, or do I not give it a break at all? And it depends based on what I'm writing and what I'm doing. So I have multiple projects, like I said. They typically happen simultaneously. So sometimes I will take a little bit longer of a break from one project if I'm really focused on another. And that typically helps. And that could be sometimes several months, depending on where I'm at. Recently, I just finished my prophecy project a week before you are seeing this video. I have a vlog on it if you want to go check it out. But for that, I'm actually giving it just a few weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks, because I am doing a critique exchange. And I wanted to focus on the critique exchange because that has a due date. And then I'm going right back into prophecy project. So a little break, but not enough that I'm going to be like forgetting what the novel was about. Question number 10 is there something I prefer to do to get me through writing, such as playing music, the TV, having a favorite food or drink? And I don't necessarily have a specific, like, I need this to happen. However, I do like music, and I like music that isn't super distracting, which means it could be either instrumental or it just has high vibes for what I'm writing. I also always have water with me because I drink water all the time, nonstop. And if I don't have water, I feel like I'm going to die. I'm just very dramatic like that, but I need my water. So that's the only thing I absolutely have to have, is some music and water. Question number 11 is, do I schedule my writing sessions? And the answer for this is yes. Because I have a day job that is 7:30 to 3:30 every single day, and I also have other things in my life that have to take precedent, maybe not every day, but a lot of days. Scheduling time to write is super important. Now, I don't always do this because some days I'm like, oh, I just need a break from writing. And other days I'll be like, I thought I was going to take a break, but now I'm really excited to write. But for the most part, I always try to say like I'm going to put in X amount of time per week, or I might just say, all right, you know, my husband is going to be home at 5 from work. So today from 3:30 to 5, I'm just going to write. And that just helps me keep accountable, because if I didn't, there's definitely been some months in my past where I stopped scheduling time to write and I just stopped writing completely. Question number 12 is, do I have word count or chapter goals for my writing sessions? And the easy answer is no, I don't. There are 2 times that I would say I have a writing goal during my writing session, and that's during NaNoWriMo in November. I do have my word count goal because I always keep to the 50,000 word goal. So I try to get 1667 words every day. The other time is when I am editing. I typically like to try to get an entire chapter done at least during my writing session, because it's a lot harder for me to edit in like starting in the middle of a chapter than it is starting to edit at the beginning of a chapter to finish that chapter. Otherwise, I just write to write and we get where we get when we get there. Question 13 are there any quirky things to do that make my projects more fun? And I don't think so, other than, which is not really quirky. I think a lot of people do this, but I make Pinterest boards sometimes for inspiration. So I don't do it for every project, but sometimes projects where I want to visualize more, I will make a Pinterest board. And then similarly with writing playlists, I do make specific playlists for every book that I write because music is such a big influence to me. So I also have all Spotify playlists made for every book I've ever written, or sometimes books that I want to write, I start getting inspired very early by music and I start storing that away for the time that I eventually get to write it. Question 14, I already answered this, which is, do I work on multiple projects at the same time? And that answer is yes. Question 15 is, how often do I research what I'm writing? And that depends on the content of my book. So I've definitely done research as I am editing, because sometimes I'll do a little bit of research while I'm writing, but I'll know, like, I'll put a note to say, like, research this more. I do have a project upcoming that is going to be heavily focused on dreams. So that is actually a project that I do plan on researching extensively before I even start writing it, because there's a lot of groundwork I have to do with dream psychology. But for now, the books that I've written so far, I've done research on the fly when I need to, and then during editing, I go back and I research more extensively. Question number 16 is, how do I organize my projects? I don't really know exactly what this question is asking. My guess is that it's going to ask, like, do I have files for each of them? And that answer would be yes. So basically, I use Google Docs for all of my work. So I just have it all in one area. And what I do is that each draft, I copy the original draft. So for instance, for Prophecy Project, I had draft 1. And then I copied all those words and made a new document and titled it Prophecy Project version 2. And I will keep doing that every time I edit my novel. That way I have a copy of my previous draft in case anything ever happens or goes wrong. But also in case, you know, I need to remember, like, oh, I thought I had this in there. Let me see if I can go back and pull something that I might have forgotten to add in later. So I always label all my projects what version they are. And then I also obviously keep the titles the same. So for instance, Prophecy Project will always say Prophecy Project. And then Project Mermaid will always say Project Mermaid. And that's pretty much how I get it, like, keep it organized, because then I can always go into Google Docs and search for Project Mermaid, and it'll pull up everything that has that title. That includes my notes. So I have a document that says Prophecy Project Notes. And basically it's just organizing by name. There's nothing fancier than that. It's pretty simple. Question number 17 is, do I reward or punish myself for achieving or missing out on my writing goals? The answer is so. I don't punish myself. Personally, as a therapist too, punishment doesn't really do anything for me other than lower my self-confidence. So it's not worth it, because if I keep punishing myself for not doing something, I'm never going to get published. And that's just my hot take on that. Rewards in of themselves also don't really work for me. However, I will do like big goals. So for instance, when I finished Prophecy Project, I bought a special bottle of wine to celebrate with, and I also bought myself some bookish merch that I've been eyeing up forever, but that was because I finished my draft too, and it had taken me quite a while, and I was very proud of that draft. I know during NaNoWriMo, I did try to do like word count goals, so like when I got like 10,000 and 25,000 and 50,000, but I'm the type of person that will just go out and buy something if I want it. So for instance, if I bought like gummy worms for hitting 10,000 words, I'm going to eat the gummy worms when I want them, whether or not I hit 10,000 or not. So something like that is kind of silly for me. But occasionally I might say like, hey, you know, I put in such a good writing day today. I'm going to buy myself like a fancy latte from a coffee shop. So like I said, it's yes and no, but mostly no. It just depends on what my mood is, what my bank account looks like, and whether or not I feel like I really want or need something. Question number 18 is, are there any works similar to your projects that you look for and use for inspiration and or comparison? And the answer is yes. 100% absolutely. I mean, partially when you're going to be a traditional published author, one of the like forms when you're doing a query letter is to add in comparison titles, comp titles. So if you ever heard the word comp title, it's a comparison. So absolutely, I'm always kind of thinking through when I'm writing, like what is my book going to be most closely related to, so that when I get to query, I can use that and say, yes, it's similar to this, and I think that audience is really going to like it. So for instance, I talked about my dream project, which I have not written yet, but some of the inspiration that I'm using, which is legit, like there's certain scenes and elements from these movies that I really liked that I want to keep into and like kind of tweak for my own writing in Dreamland. And there's Labyrinth, David Bowie, Jim Henson's Labyrinth. There's the show Legion, which was a TV show that I loved. And then there's also Nightmare on Elm Street. All three of those are pretty like visceral media that I really draw inspiration from when I'm thinking about what I want to write for Project Dreamland. Question number 19 is, how early do you want to start looking for and hiring editors? So I am trying to be traditionally published, and I will not be hiring an editor per se. But the one thing I have considered is to do a developmental edit and hire someone. And I wouldn't even consider doing that until I'm 100% certain that my work is the best it's going to be in my own hands. So that might mean that I have 5 or 6 drafts that I've done. And finally, I'm like, all right, we're almost at the querying stage. And now I can have someone kind of check it over for developmental issues. But otherwise, I am not going to hire an editor, at least that's not in my plan. Question 20 is, if I finished a first draft or a manuscript, and tell you guys how I felt. So I have finished 3 manuscripts, and every single time I'm super proud. I also just finished my second draft of Prophecy Project, and that felt really good overall because it's the first time that I really set my mind to editing wholly by myself. I have edited and wrote several versions of my co-written project. So every time we finished a new draft of that, though, we still celebrated. It was still an accomplishment. It was still something that was getting us closer to what we wanted. And yeah, I always feel happy that I've done it. And I don't think it's ever going to change, because writing a novel from start to finish and editing it and putting all that time and effort is always a new feat. One that I don't have to do, but I want to do. And it's something I'm always proud of. And question 21 is tag someone. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to tag someone. Maybe I will. I mean, I think the last time I tagged 2 people, which was Sarah LeBrat and Autumn Ashley, neither of them did it. So I feel like I shouldn't tag someone. But, you know what? Recently, I started following Charlotte Kay, and she's a newer author tuber. And I'm going to tag her because she is super cute. I love her channel, and she's newer. And I think this is a great way to get to know her better. So Charlotte, tag, you're it. And that is all for this video, guys. Thank you so much again for 600 subscribers. At this point, I'm over 600, which is still wild to me. And thank you so much for coming on my writing journey. It's meant a lot to me in these last year and a half that I've been on YouTube. And I'm looking forward to what YouTube brings to me in the future. I post videos every Tuesday and Friday. I live stream quite a bit, especially in the camp and nano months. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should go follow me on Instagram because I post my live stream schedule over there. I also host gaming streams over on Twitch on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. So if you're looking to find me, all of my socials are below. And until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.